The world is changed. It is felt in the stones of the earth. It is heard in the whispering boughs of the ancient woods. In the twilight of the grand seasons, a new chronicle was written in the annals of the brave, the song of Tordek, son of the hills, an order, domain cleric whose spirit was as unyielding as the bedrock of the world. For many months, while the shadows lengthened across the lands, Tordek had bided his time in earnest preparation. A whisper had come to him from a trusted companion, a tale of a harrowing trial known across the borders as the Summit 700, an epic quest that defied the endurance of mortal men. To conquer it was to claim the sacred medallion of the ultramarathon, a token of enduring strength. Knowing the peril that lay ahead, Tordek sought the arts of a mystic scribe, who, with a needle of obsidian and inks infused with ancient power, wove the primal spirit of a great bear into the flesh of his forearm. Beneath the silhouette of the beast, runes of power were etched. Don't fucking quit. It was a spell of fierce resolve, bound to unlock the apex strength of the wild when the darkness of exhaustion closed in. The morning dawned in a glorious canopy of gold and blue, a warm midsummer's day in the month of July. At the threshold of the trial, Tordek stood not alone. Beside him stood Kyla, his devoted wife, whose counsel was his anchor, and Dakota, a faithful, furry beast of great loyalty. Yet, as the cleric looked upon the gathering of rival adventurers, men of grand stature, high-level rangers, and swift-footed elves, a creeping shadow of doubt and impostor's malaise chilled his heart. They seemed forged of grander myth. "Look not to their stride, Tordek," Kyla murmured, steeling his resolve. With a brave face, the dwarf hardened his heart like iron. His elven-made pack was heavy with provisions, sustenance of lembas bread, flasks filled with water, and the invigorating wine of the firstborn, and a pocket heavy with sacred parchment scrolls. Unfurling the first, a scroll of bless penned by his mother, Kathy, he read the glowing script. "From the day you were born, I knew you would do great things." Then, the great war horn blasted, the air shattered, yet there was no mad charge. In a display of quiet solemnity, the host of adventurers began a slow, measured march up the sheer, unforgiving mountainside, the first of 5 great ascents that would test the marrow of their bones. Tordek paced his steps wisely, for he knew that far beyond the 30-kilometer mark lay the Pain Cave, a psychological abyss where many a hero's will had broken. When the crest was won, the descent offered a wild release. Tordek flung himself down the gravelly, stone-strewn slopes, reaching a terrifying speed of 21 kilometers per hour. He was a boulder loosed from the peak, barely in control, relying solely on his rigorous months of training to keep his footing true. He flew past the higher-level striders, his dwarven gravity turning peril into triumph. By the 7th kilometer, the crowds vanished. He found himself a solitary traveler through a wilderness of profound beauty, running beneath cathedral-like forest canopies, alongside rushing rivers and over high ridges where the wind sang of ancient days. Peace settled upon his soul. At the first haven, the aid station of the frontier, he replenished his flasks, answered the call of the wild, and tarried not, plunging back into the green deeps. His dwarven toughness shone like a beacon in the gloom. Whenever the mountain paths narrowed and his breath grew short, the bear spirit within his arm raged against the fatigue, roaring its silent oath. "Don't fucking quit!" By the 20-kilometer haven, the air grew heavy. Tordek drew 2 scrolls from his tunic. The first, a script of guidance from his father Randy, carried a voice of distant thunder. "So proud of you and all that you do for adventure. Keep safe." The second, a scroll of heroism from Kyla, sparked fire in his blood. "You can do it." At the 30-kilometer mark, the loyal vanguard awaited him. Kyla and the great beast Dakota were weathered and hot from their own arduous journey across the ridges. As Tordek cast aside the gear he no longer required, Kyla raised her hands, weaving a potent ward of bless and heroism over him. "The Blue Mountain lies ahead," she warned. Indeed, the Blue Mountain was a realm of dread, designed to crush the spirits of the mightiest champions. It demanded a triple ascent, over 20 kilometers of shifting, treacherous earth, while a cruel sun beat down from the heavens, like the malice of Mordor, threatening to boil the very blood within his veins. His legs turned to lead. Gasping for air, he broke the seals of 2 more scrolls of heroism. From the first spoke his youngest son, Riley. "You got this, Dad, DFQ. From the second, the words of his dungeon master Josh echoed with mystic authority. "Make your lizard babies proud, Tordek." At the summit of that cruel peak, a miracle of fellowship awaited. Not only were Kyla and Dakota there to bolster his flagging spirits, but his mother, Kathy, his father, Randy, and 2 more noble beasts of comfort, Harley and Jojo, stood upon the high rocks. The deep love of his kin shielded him from the agonizing heat. Yet by the 40-kilometer haven, the darkness of the Pain Cave had fully enveloped him. Exhausted, sitting upon a stone, a maiden of the hearth asked him, "Do you need anything?" Tordek looked at the endless trail ahead and whispered hoarsely, "I'm trying to build up the courage to get back on trail." In the dark, he reached for his final reserves. He unrolled a scroll from his eldest son, Dylan. "Hey, Dad, you're almost at the finish line. Keep it up. You still think the hills are not as bad as Calabogie, LOL." Beside it, the ancient words of his grandfather René burned bright. "You amaze me on how you can do these things successfully." Calling upon his innate dwarven resilience, Tordek fought the toxic fatigue coursing through his limbs. Though his muscles shrieked and his mind demanded he fall, he ran. He ran for the fellowship he had forged along the way, the travelers from the distant shores of British Columbia and the icy wastes of Alaska, whose shared jests had lightened the long miles. He pulled the final parchment from his belt, the wisdom of his companion Andre. "One step at a time, it will get you home." With a final thundering effort, Tordek crested the last ridge and broke into a ferocious descent. The roar of the valley reached his ears, the cheering of a multitude. Down the mountain he swept, a force of nature reborn. Before the eyes of his kin, his parents, and the faithful beasts, Tordek, the hill dwarf cleric, crossed the threshold of the finish line. The quest of the Summit 700 was broken. The glittering medallion of the ultramarathon was placed around his neck, and a grand leveling up transpired within his soul. As he lay upon the green grass, the words of his fellow adventurer Aishi drifted through his thoughts like a pleasant evening breeze. Time for the ultimate tavern feast and a well-deserved long rest, and the land was at peace.